Dwayne?
Hi, Mom. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving was 2 days ago, Dwayne. Thursday. I was waiting for your call, and it never came.
Mom.
It never came. I sat at the table, and Hank said, "Eat, for goodness sake, eat some food." And I said to him, "Hank, I don't want my mouth full when my son calls me."
Mom, that's a line from an old Nicholas and May sketch. Mom, that's comedy.
Well, you go ahead and laugh. I'm not laughing.
Who came over for Thanksgiving, Mom?
We saved a place for you, that's what.
Mom, I'm in New York.
I realize that, but I thought that maybe by some mistake...
Who was there with you, Mom?
Oh, your father, Sister Sharon, the weepy one, with her deadhead boyfriend, Ralph, who sits there like a stone. She brought shrimp casserole, and I tell you, she had never been good at checking expiration dates. Oh, I knew the moment I put that fork full in my mouth. I was heading for the emergency room.
What happened?
Well, she was complaining that nobody likes her cooking and nobody she likes makes it turn out right. So trying to comfort her, I took its second bite.
And it wasn't good?
Oh, I could be dead now, Dwayne. Almost headed to the hospital.
So you got food poisoning?
No, I decided by sheer force of will that I would not get food poisoning. I said it over and over. I will not get food poisoning. I do not want to be bent over the toilet when my son calls me.
So how was the turkey?
We didn't have turkey this year. I sent your father to pick up a turkey at the store, and he came home with tilapia. Tilapia, yeah. I didn't want him to feel bad, so I went ahead with it. How do you stuff a tilapia? I tried to, and it fell apart, and I wound up with fish stew. But your father is okay with anything, you know him. I could serve him fish sticks with melted Velveeta, and he'd have been happy. So enough about me. What was your Thanksgiving like?
It was okay.
Okay.
I went to a diner.
A diner?
They had a turkey dinner special. It wasn't bad. White meat and dressing and candied yams, cranberry.
So who were you with?
It was just me.
Just you? Well, what about what's her name? You know, the gal with the red hair.
Colleen. She went up to Boston to spend it with her family.
And she didn't take you with her?
We're just friends, Mom.
Well, friends don't let friends be alone on Thanksgiving. For mercy's sakes.
I was fine.
My son alone in a diner in New York, eating turkey and dressing in a crowd of homeless drifters.
I don't think they were homeless.
Well, why else were they in a cafe?
New Yorkers have tiny kitchens. Their ovens are about big enough to heat up a grilled cheese sandwich. They usually eat out.
Well, I was thinking, if you'd like, we could all go have Christmas dinner at a diner. What do you think? Dinner at a diner. Got a ring to it. Just you and me and Dad. We can sit there and eat turkey, loaf, and instant mashed potatoes, and cranberry out of a can, and factory-made apple pie instead of home-cooked meals that your mother has been making for the past 37 years. Imagining what they meant something to you. Oh, we'll go to a diner. One with an old waitress with a hairnet and paper placemats with advertising on them for auto body shops and funeral homes.
Mom, I'll plan on Christmas at your house.
Well, only if you want to, Dwayne. I don't want to force you.
I'll be there, Mom, I promise.
Good. Then you can meet Candace.
Candace?
Did I not tell you about Candace? She works at the waste treatment plant in the office, though. She got divorced. You'd love her.
Oh, brother.
What?
Nothing, Mom. Great.
I'll make cheese balls.
Can't wait. Okay, bye now.
Bye now. Love you.
Love you.
Bye.
Comes a little too close to home, doesn't it? Like many of you, I spent way too much time this week watching the impeachment hearings as Adam Schiff tried to bring some dignity and professional deportment to a painful process that was only made more unbearable by the snide, insulting, and absurd propaganda speeches delivered by Devin Nunes. Me too. I literally began to cringe at the sound of his voice. He's just so dishonest and so hypocritical and so melodramatically condescending as he was repeating what was just obviously Russian propaganda talking points. And at some point, it dawned on me that after this show of hollow character, that Devin was going to have to go back home to California this week and face his mother on Thanksgiving. And it turns out he probably will. His mom, Tony, is his campaign manager. Interestingly enough, she is currently under investigation for mishandling several $1 million of campaign donations. I'm not on Twitter much, but I am a follower of Devin Nunes Cal because I know that it irritates him so much that he's actually filed suit against Twitter to have it shut down. It seems like if Devin Nunes can make a joke out of Congress, that I can afford to take a joke at his expense by reading the posts of Devin Nunes Cal. But I was surprised to learn that someone has also picked up the fake Twitter handle of Devin Nunes' mom. And this is one of the only tweets from that account that I can show you in church. All I'm saying is that this Thanksgiving week, even if you have been a humiliatingly dishonest, treasonous, annoying little former dairy farmer from California who is now in Congress, before Tony serves him turkey and gravy, and I don't mean this literally because, you know, I'm opposed to any kind of domestic violence, but Tony needs to make sure that Devin knows that he has been a huge disappointment to the whole world. Honestly, I don't know how I could sit down at a Thanksgiving dinner table with him without clearing the air a bit about how he had repeatedly brought up the Steele dossier, and then he went on to repeat totally debunked conspiracy theories about Ukraine interfering with the 2016 election to take the focus off of the obvious truth that it was Russia meddling with the election. So really, is this any time to talk about dressing and cranberry sauce? I mean, it just seems like you've got to settle the score here. But thankfully, none of you are Devin Nunes, and you will not have to explain yourself to your campaign manager, Tony, when you go home this week. But if you have surviving family, there is a chance that you are going to have to go swimming in that genetic bouillabaisse that we call family. Holidays have always been difficult in some way. Sometimes we set ourselves up with unrealistic Norman Rockwell-styled expectations when reality rarely rises to the level of joy and ebullience that we hope for or that we think that we remember from our childhood. Still, in spite of what you may have heard to the contrary, in spite of the shorter hours of daylight, the expense and stress of travel, and the hard work it takes to prepare the holiday feast, most people do not fall into depression around the holidays. As strange as it may seem, contact with even dysfunctional family members seems to help people elevate their moods a bit. Suicide rates go down during the holidays, and people, in spite of the shorter days and the cold weather and the expense of it all, tend to be happier. Though let me hasten to add that this is not universally true. There are dysfunctional families, which I think is probably about all of them. You know, if we were to do a show of hands of did you grow up in a dysfunctional family, you'd be able to feel the breeze from hands going up. But beyond dysfunctional families, there are abusive families. And one of the hardest things that we adults ever have to decide is which bridges we're going to maintain and which ones we're going to go ahead and burn. And some bridges, ladies and gentlemen, have to be burned. My general opinion about this, though, is that our generation is typically way too fast to sever connection. We simultaneously put all of our opinions, our political views on social media, and then we unfriend anyone who isn't just like us. Of course, it is my job to put 10 to 15 pages of unvarnished commentary on the web every week. So I both attract thousands of people who agree with me while I alienate tens of thousands of others who are admittedly less intelligent and less attractive than my readers and listeners. But that's not to be judgmental. But to be totally disclosive with you, I have 15,000 listeners. I have more than 7,000 friends on various Facebook pages I manage. But I see more movies alone than I see with a friend. Our generation is more digitally connected and more personally disconnected than any other generation in history. So my pastoral word on all this is this: go to Thanksgiving determined not to let anyone light your fuse. Don't let anyone punch your buttons or force you into a battle of wits with an unarmed opponent. It never turns out well. I say that recognizing that you wouldn't be here if you did not have passionate feelings about social justice and a barely seething contempt for the worldview espoused by evangelical churches, Fox News commentators, and the Tea Party wing of the nearly Soviet-sympathizing Republican Party. Just remember, even when we know that you're probably going to stir the pot, that I suggested that you not do it. I am equally aware that it does not always lie with you alone. Sometimes you don't have to say anything at all. More than a generation ago, I was married, and the whole of my in-laws were deeply rooted in Mississippi, where the racism is as thick as molasses on a cold winter day. I just had to show up, and just sitting at the table caused the frequency of the use of the N-word to shoot up exponentially as they wanted desperately to show me what an embarrassment I was to their, may I call them a clan. And that happened whether I was wearing my favorite t-shirt or not. When I adopted an Asian child, I refused to go back to Mississippi and subject her to their poison, though a few years later, one of their precious white Mississippi princesses married a very black football player from her college, and I'll confess that I kind of wanted to go back to Thanksgiving that year. But as I said, that bridge had already been burned. So I get it. Family can be very difficult at times, and they will try to humiliate you because you are more woke about race and poverty, the environment, immigration, and healthcare than they have managed to become. And it can be difficult not to stand on a chair and preach a bit, but let me put this family reunion into perspective. Yes, some of your people are difficult. I've met some of them. Some of them are darn near impossible. And yet, there are lots of families that have lost the option of connection. I'm bummed that my daughter will be skiing the slopes of Colorado this Thanksgiving rather than making the long trek home to be with her aging father, whom I remind her now has a heart murmur and high blood pressure, and we don't know how many more Thanksgivings that I have left in me. But Valerie has become inured to my tactics. But these are first world problems, aren't they? She will come home for Christmas. Later in the winter, we will inevitably schedule a scuba diving trip and some tropical location, and for me, that's better than anything Norman Rockwell ever imagined. But we should get these family tensions into context. There are a lot of other families that won't be getting together this year. Beyond the mortal divide that comes with cancer and heart disease, there will be 700 families this week with an empty chair at the table because one of their teenage family members was shot and killed. 20 of them were killed while they were at school. This little girl, and thousands like her, will not be with her family this week because she's being held in a dog kennel in a concentration camp on the border. While we've been worrying about stupid corruption, election deals with Ukraine in the past few months, the number of children held in concentration camps on our border has gone from 7,000 to now over 10,000. I don't even know how to help you get your head around that. I tried looking up some statistics, and in Springfield, from kindergarten to fifth grade, we've got about 10,000 kids in our public schools here. So imagine the federal government coming and taking everyone who's between the ages of 5 and 11 out of Springfield all at once, putting them in an undisclosed location for an indeterminate amount of time. Can you feel how traumatic that would be for that to take place in those kinds of numbers? We are passionate people, and I applaud the prophetic spirit that animates you, that makes your heart pound for justice. But let me remind you the words of the late President John F. Kennedy, who in a speech that he was to have delivered in Austin had he not been assassinated the day before, he would have said, "Let us not be petty when our cause is so great. Let us not quarrel amongst ourselves when our nation's future is at stake. Let us stand together with renewed confidence in our cause, united in our heritage of the past and our hopes for the future, and determined that this land we love shall lead all of humankind into new frontiers of peace and abundance." Folks, as much as it lies with you, enjoy your traditional family foods, but do not return judgment for judgment. Give the gift of patience to those who either do not understand you or who are sincerely threatened by who you have become. You should never have to be anyone's victim, but when it happens, you need to understand that there is no joy ever found in revenge. It never makes you feel better. Remember that you have changed over the decades. And aren't you glad that people didn't peg you as who you were 20 or 30 years ago? In the same way, let's allow the space and time needed for them to grow. Water the seeds of awareness, but don't feel obligated to pull all the weeds, at least not this week. We can have a Friendsgiving next Sunday, and you can tell me all the things you would have liked to have said had you not decided to be mature enough not to say it.
Thank you for watching our videos. We are entirely dependent on the donations of our listeners and members. We hope that you find this content to be important enough to help us to keep offering these videos to the public at no charge by becoming a regular contributor. Please click on the donate button on our website at www.spfccc.org. Thank you for your support of progressive religious programming.